Talk about elections. But let's talk about election volatility, because the stock market's expected moves are all up. They've widened out quite a bit. So for anyone that does have my charts, you guys, all these lines are up to date. The charts are saved, so you guys have my chart link. You guys are good to go. So anybody on Patreon, the membership group, or like even the YouTube members, you guys should have that. So all of this should load for you. There is going to be one small change coming up, just giving everybody fair warning. There's been zero pushback so far, but coincidentally, we made this decision in the membership group right before it actually happened. We're talking about replacing the Russell with the Dow, and as soon as we talked about that and said let's do that, because I break down the SPY, QQQ, and IWM, right? So the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Russell. Russell, a lot of times, will break down the financials, and that's cool, but there's just not a lot of trade opportunity there. It's kind of, it has its days, but it's certainly far and few in between. But as soon as we talk about replacing that with the Dow, NVIDIA gets added to the Dow. So NVIDIA did see a nice little jump on that. I want to say that was just this weekend. So after hours, I think NVIDIA is, yeah, that was the pop in NVIDIA being added to the Dow. Crazy. All right, but anyway, let's start from the top. Let's rock and roll, because everything is elevated. And I did go short over the weekend. Actually, there's going to be a live stream on Don Fran's show later. I'm going live with David Jaffe. He was in the business, like worked at, I'll let him introduce himself. I don't want to butcher it. In the business. So I want to talk to him about what would he think is a good idea to hedge, because I do think there is something coming. I don't think it's here now, although I am short over the weekend. I don't want anybody to confuse the two. But we are going to talk about that, hedging, what would be good. Because the growth count did grab utilities, but I don't know if we're going to grab bonds. This is a conversation I'm going to have later, but that is all to come. So jumping into the stream right now, we'll rock and roll. Looks like the dollar opened up. We're already rocking to the south side, which is amazing. Burn this thing down. This is a weekly zone, so really I want this to reject right here. Come up right into that weekly zone, indecisive. Let's send it. Hopefully this week is red. We're back on the short the dollar. As far as the yen, it's a little bit up. Okay, we're getting there. We need that. We need this. Because I'm short the Japanese yen. Look at that. That's what we're talking about. So technically a little bit of a gap up. This alert right here is where I'm really adding on. I'm going in. I have nothing compared to what I was in earlier. But that's where I will be all back in, which will be 10 lots. One lot is 100,000, so I'm going to go 10 lots short. That's what I had kind of coming down here, and that's when I will be all back in. Looking at Bitcoin, just like we talked about, it hitting that zone, pulling back, and I am buying the dip on this one for now. I do think markets are going to favor one over the other. Let's just be honest, keeping all political opinions aside. I do see crypto, if Trump is president, being a little bit more bullish, you know. Again, we'll see. Time will tell. I don't typically give the president that much credit, but it's clear there's been almost some kind of favoritism. You know, we'll see like in the headlines when someone's pulling ahead. I mean, we've kind of seen it, not enough to really just get its own video about it, you know. A lot of it could be chalked up to coincidence, but for now, that's kind of where my head's at on that one. All right. But anyway, we talked about it breaking this, hitting that zone, pulling back right into this bright yellow zone, and that would end up being the dip buy. I think Bitcoin's going to be making a move for it. Get above this again, and I think we go. So at that point, I'm looking forward to Bitcoin hype, which is why I've been buying things like Mara, Beto. I had MicroStrategies for a little bit. I just had some call options, sold those. It was just a great trade. I just have not bought the dip on that, but certainly watching for that now, as a matter of fact. S&P. So everything actually gapped down. Right before I was recording this, everything had gapped down and was green. Kind of right now we're indecisive. So this is the futures. This is what drives order flow into the ETFs like SPY or VOO if you watch Andre Jick. You know, you got QQQ and then the Russell IWM. But But anyway, this is what drives order flow. So you don't really see gaps in here. Gaps are to be noted, right? So we actually closed right here, opened up down here. So there was no buyers there, which is interesting. Good for me because ultimately I'm short. I don't want that to be going up. I do think, however, breaking this trend to the downside, I think we got a little bit more. I still think this is probably a dip buy for now. I do think we're going to see a hard correction, if not an absolute crash. But I think that's next year. I don't think this is it now. I think we're removing some trades off the table. I think institutions are just pulling back for election volatility, and then just getting back in. This is the natural ebb and flow. The overall short-term trend just down anyway. Bear flag playing out. I'm actually short SQQQ, so I should have just said all of this on the next page. But like I said, these are all posted. If you guys noticed this morning, got some work done early. I did post the expected moves charts in the chat, so that's all there. The NASDAQ. So I'm short. So I'm short this by the QQQ ETF. Didn't want to grab put options, and I didn't really want to hold a futures contract. I guess I probably could have gone MNQ, but I trade ES and NQ. So decided I wanted a little bit of leverage, but also not short-term options. So I'm in SQQ. We'll see if that gaps up. Right now, I want this to just reject and melt down. The curious thing here is this kind of overall trend lining up right with this zone. Honestly, it doesn't look like a bad dip buy right now. Just all things considered, just keeping the bias aside, that zone right there would more than likely be a dip buy outside of any other scenario. Again, kind of like when Powell's coming up, when there's a rate cut decision or reports coming out, you see some selling off into that. Not panic or anything crazy, but it's just bigger institutions removing risk. And a lot of times that's kind of what I tell everyone else. Like when that report's coming out, just know when that news is coming out. Because you have one or two options: delete your stop loss, and I'll see you on the other side. Or just take your position off. A lot of times in volatility, especially in Forex, if you have a stop loss anywhere in sight, someone's going to snatch up that order book. You're tagging out, and it's going to tag out and be right back up, and you'll wish you never did. Now, the other side to that coin, there's always a heads and tails, is it doesn't snap back up. It just goes back. It just continues south. Wherever you thought you had your stop, blast right past that, and there's no coming back. So if you can't handle that in general, position sizing might be too big. Your risk appetite just isn't there. You probably are better off closing the position. But again, that's why I care about when the news is coming out, not so much what it actually is, which is why this is not a news channel. All right, as far as the Russell for now, the Russell would be, I think, a buy down here at this yellow zone and a sell up here for now. So until it gets there, that's kind of it. Let's just check out the Dow real quick. Selling off. There's a gap fill over here. Checking that zone from the top. You could argue this might be a decent dip buy. I don't know if I'd give it a bunch of time. My stop would be right here, right? Oh, the 42,000 mark. What an awkward stop. What a fast way to have your stop sitting right there and get tagged out. That's obnoxious. No way I'd want to buy a futures contract. But honestly, I don't think it's the best setup. Never mind. Not with $5 a tick, and you're going to put your stop way down here. There's only a couple people I know that have the accounts to probably actually support that without it being a detrimental hit. MYM1 is the micro. Yeah. Are you poor, Cody? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding for anybody that trades the micro. Yes, MYM is the micro of this. So it should be what, 50 cents?